What is going on, everybody? Welcome to episode 13 of Let's Be Frank with your host, your friendly neighborhood bull, Frank Mattis, brought to you by the Old City Sports Network. And boy, do we have a lot to get into, a lot of juicy topics. So get your popcorn ready. I will talk about the Eagles' victory over the Jaguars despite Nick Sirianni's utter incompetence. And I will also dive into the Joel Embiid, Marcus Hayes situation. So without further ado, let's get started. Um, let's talk about the Eagles. Ooh, man, where do we begin? Last week I came on the pod and I talked about how I truly believe that this team is a Super Bowl contender. And they have all the key ingredients, mostly all the key ingredients, to make up a Super Bowl contending team. You have a quarterback who's playing at a high level, a quarterback that continues to make plays and not turn the ball over and shows growth on a weekly basis, sees the field, and is playing like a low key MVP candidate. I mean, let's just be honest. I mean, he's playing efficient football. He's 18 of 24, 230 yards passing, two touchdowns, 67 yards rushing, and another touchdown on the ground. I mean, the guy is just playing high level football, and he's shutting up a lot of critics. Let me just say that. And then you have a legitimate MVP candidate in Saquon Barkley, who just continues to dazzle all of us Eagles fans with his remarkable play. I mean, what is there to say? I mean, that is something I've never seen before, and is something that, um, it I mean, what is there to say? I mean, he's an incredible talent and a guy that has been a revelation for this Eagles team and has taken this Eagles team to the next level. Saquon Barkley's incredible. Devontae Smith, another guy who's incredible, a guy that I've always said is a number one wide receiver. And when AJ Brown went down, Devontae Smith proved why he's a true number one receiver in this league. Just an incredible talent, a guy that I think some people take for granted. But yeah, a guy that just continues to make plays. You have an ascending defense with guys like Zach Bond and Nakobe Dean, who have been incredible at the linebacking position, a position group that was a huge liability last year, and they've stepped up and have gotten better on a weekly basis. Guys like Cooper DeJean come up big, especially on fourth down. Um, you have guys like Kenyon Mitchell who continues to impress. Josh Sweat, just an absolute beast. Special teams, uh, huge play by Keely Ringo to strip the ball out um, on the punt. I mean, just great football from all three levels: offense, defense, and special teams. And you have your coordinators have done a really good job there. I mean, when you factor in specifically your OC and your DC. I mean, Kellen Moore and Vic Fangio are clearly upgrades from Brian Johnson and Sean Desai. There's no question about it. And they're starting to really, take it to the next level and get more comfortable with the guys that they have and learn from mistakes and coach these guys up accordingly and put them in positions to be successful. But unfortunately, we do have an issue with this team, and it starts with the head coach. Um, I mean, this team has a Nick Sirianni problem. Make no mistake about it. And a guy that, unfortunately, will probably hold this team back. I don't know if they can as good as they are in terms of offense and as as the defense continues to ascend, and when you have guys like Jalen Hurts, Devontae Smith, Saquon Barkley, doing their thing, despite all of that. And there was a lot of good that came out of Sunday. There's a lot of things that you look at and you think positive of, and you go and you say, like, we have something here. But unfortunately, our head coach is going to hold us back, and that is a serious problem. And I just, it's coming. It's coming. And it's really unfortunate because you have the team in place that can win a Super Bowl. But if that guy's in charge, can get it done. I mean, just look at what happened on Sunday. As far as the over aggressiveness, right? I mean, it's not aggressiveness; it's recklessness. And I can stomach the first fourth down play that they tried to convert on when they're up 10-0 and Jacksonville just doesn't have anything going for them. The Eagles have all the momentum in the world. They just Jacksonville just couldn't stop us. Like, I understand why you would go for it on fourth down there because they just don't have an answer. They obviously made a big play on AJ Brown, and kudos to them. But then when you factor in the 2-point conversion at the end of the end of the first half, it just doesn't make any sense. You kick it. Well, first of all, they kicked the extra point, right? They got it, so they're up 17-0, which is a 3-score game. And then they got the penalty. Jacksonville got the penalty, which put the ball on the 1-yard line. Though it's very enticing to go with the tush push on that play at the 1-yard line, it's very enticing, but it's already mission accomplished. You already accomplished what you wanted to accomplish, which is making it a 3-score game. And then when you go for it on 2, you run the gamut of making it only a 2-score game. And ultimately they didn't get it there. And then they score again, so it's 22-0. And for whatever reason, Nick Sirianni feels compelled to go for it go for a 2-point conversion again, which makes no sense because whether it's 22, 23, 24, it's already a 3-score game. You don't have to get your points back. This isn't gambling where you take an L and you're trying to win it back. What are we doing here? There's no need to do that. That's just an ego thing. And that's a huge problem when your coach has an ego because it's going to cost you. And then don't even get me started on the second fourth down play, which I agree with going for it on fourth down, but they run a friggin' flare pass. And I'm like, what are we doing here? Run the tush push. I don't care that it was stopped twice. It's 4th and inches. You're trying to tell me that they're going to stop it again? What are we doing here? Just absolutely ridiculous. Eh, And this game should have been a blowout. This game should have been putting in your second team by the fourth quarter. Kenny Pickett should have been playing in this game. That's how much we were in control. But this guy put us in a hole, or nearly put us in a hole, but allowed Jacksonville to be in this game. And you got to take the points, dude, when they're there. And if you are going to be aggressive, you need to be smart and run the play that works 92% of the time. What are we doing here? I mean, this should have been a blowout, but we have an idiot moron head coach who is going to cost us in a big way, unfortunately. I mean, it's just unless I see him just completely take a back seat and just completely delegate responsibility, which needs to happen clearly because this team has the talent. We're in for a devastating loss. That's going to cost us a season because of this guy. And it's really, really unfortunate because you have the roster, you have the coaching staff, despite your head coach, to get the most out of these players and the most out of this talented team. But this guy's going to stand in the way, and it just doesn't make any sense to make the decisions that he makes. And I'm getting really sick and tired of seeing some people. You bring up 40-19, 40-19. There's something there. He's a good coach. That, let me be very clear about this Eagles team. This team is a Howie Roseman-led team, not a Nick Sirianni-led team. Howie Roseman put this team together. I could win 40 games with this roster. That's how stacked this team is. I can do what Nick Sirianni does and probably do a better job because I would know what plays to call when they call for it. Like on 4th and inches, you don't throw a flare pass. What are we doing here? It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense, the things that this guy does. and he just continues to make a fool out of himself. Um, and you can spare me on social media posting his rah rah speeches. Nobody cares. Nobody's buying it. This guy is a moron. This team wins in spite of that guy. I don't ever want to hear 40-19 because that team, like I said, it wins in spite of him. And that team is so talented that they can overcome his BS. This is a Howie Roseman led team, not a Nick Sirianni led team. Let's make that very crystal clear. Sirianni has nothing to do with this. It's a quarterback that has proven the doubters wrong and gets better on a yearly basis. It's you have two of the best wide receivers in all football. You have the best offensive line and one of the best offensive lines in all football, a team that always puts a premium on that position. And you have a general manager who has had issues in the past drafting defense, has had a really good last couple years in terms of the draft and getting young quality talent in this organization. Um, that's why this team is good. That's why this team went to the Super Bowl 2 years ago. It's not Nick Sirianni. So spare me the 40-19 BS. That's not because of him. That's because of this roster construction. And then they have a quarterback who continues to get better. It's not Nick Sirianni. And that guy will cost us if he doesn't completely delegate his responsibility. He's going to cost us. And it's really unfortunate because this team, this roster, if they had a head coach, if they had a Jim Harbaugh, if they had a Bill Belichick, if they had a Mike Vrabel, would be a Super Bowl winning team. No question about it because the talent is there. And there was a lot of good things to take away from Sunday, but we're here now talking about our moron head coach. Just get out of the way. Just get out of the way. Let Kellen Moore coach the offense. Let Vic Fangio coach the defense. Be seen and not heard. Let them make the decisions. Hell, make Big Dom make the decisions for all I care because this guy doesn't make the right decisions. That should have been a blowout. And on the other sideline, you have a guy in Doug Peterson who won a Super Bowl with a backup quarterback, with a backup left tackle, because he gets the most out of his talent. They were without 4 starting offensive linemen, and they nearly won that game because he took advantage of an incompetent head coach. But thank God we have talent. Thank God we have talent that can win in spite of him. He is the worst 40-19 coach I have ever seen. You're wasting this great talent. You're wasting a quarterback who is an elite quarterback. You're wasting a running back who's an MVP candidate, and you're wasting 2 wide receivers and an ascending defense and a great because your head coach is a moron. And nobody in the city likes him. And if you defend this guy, you know nothing about football. I'm sorry, you know nothing about football. If you think Nick Sirianni is a good head coach, I have zero respect for your football knowledge. Zero. Because it is very obvious that the GM put this team together. And you have a competent OC and you have a competent DC now who can get the most out of them. That's why this team is 6-2. It's not Nick Sirianni. Nick Sirianni hasn't done anything to make this team what it is. It's not Nick Sirianni. It's the GM and the talent on this team. So spare me the 40-19 argument. For the love of God, if you think Nick Sirianni is a good head coach, I have zero respect for your football knowledge. Zero. The trade deadline is today. Enough of that. about Sunday. And then obviously we play the Dallas Cowboys, who are going to be without Dak Prescott. Um, I mean, what is there to say? I mean, the Eagles should win convincingly. I don't care that it's in Jerry World. I don't care they haven't won a game in Jerry World since 2017. That team is a mess. They just traded a fourth round pick for a scrub wide receiver and Jonathan Mingo. Like, I mean, you guys know you need a running back, right? You know you need a running back, right? But that's Jara for you. His ego blinds him, and that team, as long as he's calling the shots, that team does not scare me. And that team, where they are now, I mean, I just it's not even worth previewing. The Eagles are going to step all over them on Sunday. I mean, it's not even going to be. But then again, you have Nick Sirianni as your head coach, so um, he might make it interesting. But I just the Eagles' talent should be able to take care of business, right? You would think, right? But yeah, I mean, it's just not worth talking about. But what it is worth talking about is trade deadline because Howie likes the wheel and deal, and there's some enticing options out there. Um, when you look at the team and where it's at, and you look at who they ought to bring in, to me, I wouldn't mind another pass rusher. You have Josh Sweat playing at a high level. You still have Brandon Graham playing solid football. Nolan Smith was quiet this week, but he's getting better. But you do also have Bryce Huff, who's been a complete disaster for this team. But luckily, we have other guys to pick up the slack. But I wouldn't mind another pass rusher. Your secondary is playing at a high level. Um, they're only going to get better, and they're young, and you want those guys to gel, and you don't really want to mess up that momentum there, and your linebacking core is solid. But you could use another edge rusher. Max Crosby. I don't know why the Raiders, you know, wouldn't want to trade him and try to get draft picks and start all over because they clearly need a quarterback and they clearly need help in a lot of other places. There's no sense to hoard all that talent. They already offloaded Devontae Smith. I can't see why they wouldn't want to offload Max Crosby. That would be an enticing option at the right price. I've seen Trayvon Walker, who um, played on Sunday. Shouldn't have been a touchdown. The scoop and score by him, by the way. I mean, Barkley was clearly down. So you know that's that. But I wouldn't mind Trayvon Walker to the Eagles. Um, he's a solid player, but as far as like a first overall pick, he's somewhat of a disappointment. There's also Jadeveon Clowney, speaking of another first overall pick who is good, but people expected to be better. He's available. I wouldn't mind that. Even though that he ruined our season by cheap shotting Carson Wentz in 2019, but that's a whole other story. But that's in the past. I for a late pick. I wouldn't mind acquiring him. So they have options there. Even if they do stay pat, I still think that this team, again, like this team is solid. This is a Super Bowl roster. You have all the ingredients that you need except one, which is a head coach. And unless we can trade for a head coach, unless you can trade for a Jim Harbaugh or a Matt LaFleur or a Kyle Shanahan or a Sean McVay, if you were able to trade it for a coach, then I would say, trade for a coach. But that's not how the NFL works, dude. Unfortunately, we got to ride out with Nick Sirianni unless he just loses in the most spectacular way. And it's just like enough's enough and you got to get rid of the guy. Um, but this is a Super Bowl roster, and I don't necessarily need to make a trade, but I wouldn't hate it. So that's what you're looking at. Obviously, the trade deadline ends at 4 p.m. So I look forward to seeing how he's got cooked up because he's always got something cooked up. Let me tell you. Um, so yeah, that's pretty much it on the Eagles. Before I get into the Joel Embiid, Marcus Hayes debacle, know about our sponsor, Warlord Beard Oil. If you go to warlordbeardoil.com and use the promo code Old Sports, you get 15% off on your beard products. And if you spend $65 or more, you get free shipping. So go to warlordbeardoil.com and use the promo code Old Sports, excuse me. You'll get 15% off. And if you spend $65 or more, you will get free shipping as well. So the Sixers played last night. Paul George made his debut. But I mean, let's just be honest, regular season basketball really just doesn't matter. That was a late game, so it's kind of hard for me to pay attention. I did fall asleep. I'm just going to be candid. Uh, when you play a West Coast team and it's regular season basketball, that's what happens. Um, so it is what it is. I'm glad Paul George is back, but I don't really think that's worth discussing. But what is worth discussing is the whole Joel Embiid, Marcus Hayes situation. As you have heard by now, Marcus Hayes wrote an article about Joel Embiid and for whatever reason thought it was a good idea to invoke his son and his dead brother to make a larger point about Joel Embiid's shortcomings. And Joel Embiid took it upon himself to confront Marcus Hayes and shove him. And some of you may think that because I've been very critical of Joel Embiid and one of the few people to criticize Joel Embiid, that I would just go in on him and support Marcus Hayes. I'm not going to do that. I am 110% on Joel Embiid's side on this. You never, ever, ever, ever invoke somebody's family member. Ever. Never do that under any circumstance. And listen, you can talk about Joel Embiid's shortcomings on the court. You can talk about his lack of conditioning. You can talk about the Game 7 performance against the Boston Celtics in 2023. You can talk about the fact that he's never gone past the second round. That's fair game. I talk about it. But you never talk about family under any circumstance. And it's just not necessary. There's no need to invoke his dead brother and his son to make a broader point. Like, what are we doing here? Like, it's just not necessary. And Marcus Hayes is a guy that likes to run his mouth, and he's a very opinionated guy. So that's kind of what you get. And there's some bad blood between him and Joel. There's clearly a beef going on. It's clearly personal between the two. But I have no problem with what Joel Embiid did. No problem whatsoever. You try to invoke my family? You try to say something about my family? Well, you got another thing coming. You got another thing coming. You never talk about someone's family. I mean, look at what happened in Penn State this week with Jason Kelsey. Obviously, you saw the video of Jason Kelsey smashing the cell phone. Obviously, some idiot decided to call Travis Kelsey a slur that I won't bring up or I won't say in regards to his relationship with Taylor Swift. And Jason Kelsey took it upon himself to smash his phone. And like with Joel Embiid, when you invoke somebody's family, I have no problem with what Jason Kelsey did. And listen, I get it. Travis Kelsey is not everybody's cup of tea. I know a lot of people don't like, being shown Taylor Swift every 5 seconds on television. You obviously saw that last night when she was in the suite in the Kansas City Chiefs game. I get it. And, some people find him cringe. Some people look at Jason Kelsey as the far more talented and charismatic brother. I get that. But if you're going to invoke somebody's family and you're going to call him a slur and you're going to say it to his brother's face, that's what you're going to get. And with Joel Embiid, it's like, dude, like there's a way to talk about his shortcomings on the court, but there's no need to bring up his family. And this is a thing that I have a huge problem with, and I've seen this time and time again. And it's not just in sports; it's in politics as well. It's in anything that has anything to do with tribalism, whether it's sports, politics, or whatever you follow. We get so wrapped up and we're so beholden to our side or somebody we like. And if somebody does something or says something about them, we turn a blind eye because we don't want to address it because it makes us look bad. It hurts our narrative. And then, when you factor in people we don't like or people we don't support, and something happens to them and they're clearly in the right and the other person's in the wrong, we just feel compelled to just, stick to our guns and go after people we're critical of. And that's just not how I roll. I'm not like that. Yeah, I'm going to be critical of Joel Embiid, and I'm going to continue to do it. If he doesn't produce in the playoffs or he doesn't uh, continue to stay healthy, I mean, I am going to be critical. But what I'm not going to do is be blinded by partisanship. I'm not going to be because and this is what happens in sports nowadays. Um, People, because they want to go viral, because they have a shtick, they feel like they got to double thing, like they're Skip Bayless. Like you, no matter what LeBron does, you always got to find a way to criticize him. Um, in the case of Joel Embiid, there's a lot of people who don't like Joel Embiid. Though I'm critical, I still admire and like Joel Embiid and want him to prove me wrong. You got a lot of people like Angelo Cataldi who are going to clearly side with Marcus Hayes and just completely disregard the fact that he invoked his dead brother to make a point. This is indefensible. Marcus Hayes is in the wrong here, and Joel Embiid's in the right. Don't talk about someone's family, bro. And I don't care if you got a problem with a certain player. You got to call balls and strikes, bro. We as a society have to call balls and strikes. We can't just be like, oh, I don't like this person, so I'm gonna just blindly go after him, even though that they might be in the right in one area. Like it gets so aggravating. We do it in sports all the time because we got to be right on social media. It's bullshit. It's absolute bullshit. Like I'm not here to have an agenda on Joel Embiid, even though I'm very critical of him, and I'm one of the few people that are critical of him. But there's no excusing this when it comes to Marcus Hayes. Like, he knew what he was doing. He has a beef with Joel Embiid, and he decided to invoke his family, and he got shoved for his troubles. And I have no problem with what Joel Embiid did. And I'm not going to sit here because I've been critical of Joel Embiid and use a shtick to be like, oh well, Joel, find any little thing that Joel Embiid does and just go after him. That's not what I'm doing here, and that's not what I'm about. I'm letting everybody know that's not what I'm about. This isn't a Joel Embiid vendetta show. This is, if you're not going to produce, you're not going to stay healthy, I'm going to criticize him, and everybody gets it. If Jalen Hurts decides to play terrible football, I'm going to go scorched earth on him. That's just the way it goes. If you truly know sports and are in sports broadcasting, you're going to call balls and strikes, and there's no agenda here. And I've seen that, whether it's on the radio or whether social media. I've seen a lot of people go after Joel Embiid because they're disappointed in his lack of playoff success or whatever the case may be, and they're going to weaponize this as a way to get after him or go after him. And I think that's bullshit. I think you gotta stand on business and call balls and strikes and be transparent and honest about the situation. Marcus Hayes is wrong for invoking his family, and anybody defends that, it's an absolute moron and a partisan hack. When it comes to Joel Embiid and just a hater. I'm not that guy. I There's a reason why my show's Let's Be Frank, and yeah, I'm gonna praise Joel Embiid when he deserves it, and I'm gonna be critical of Joel Embiid when he deserves it as well. Um, and I think we need to, as a society, not just in sports but in all walks of life, uh, call balls and strikes, and you know, do the right thing and not be so beholden to whatever you believe in, and um, be blinded by your hatred of somebody and try to weaponize a narrative that's not there. Be honest and tell the truth. And the truth is, Marcus Hayes should have never invoked his family under any circumstance. Because if that was me, there would have been a problem as well. Because it just doesn't fly. It's human nature. You don't talk about other people's family, and anybody that refuses to to be critical of Marcus Hayes and has an agenda against Joel Embiid because he didn't get this team over the hump. People like Angelo Cataldi, who's been an absolute moron for the last 30 years. And by the way, he was never a Philly guy. He's from friggin' Providence, Rhode Island. Okay. He's a New Englander. He's not a Philly guy. The sole purpose of Angelo Cataldi was to get the fan base riled up. That guy knows nothing about sports. He is all shtick. He is all bark and no bite. And if anybody values Angelo Cataldi's opinion, needs to get evaluated. That guy is a moron. And anybody who, because they don't like Joel Embiid, decides to pile up on Joel Embiid because it's the easy thing to do, and you have a shtick like your Skip Bayless or Angelo Cataldi, I have no respect for you. At the end of the day, you don't invoke somebody's family. And you can be critical of somebody, like I am of Joel Embiid, but also be honest and tell the truth that Joel Embiid is in the right. So there you have it. Um, well, I hope you enjoyed the podcast today because I had a lot of things to get off my chest and a lot of things to say, and they need to be said. And we as a society as a whole need to be more honest and more transparent about what's right and what's wrong and not be so beholden to the things that we love and because we might have an issue with somebody or something, be dishonest about it and disingenuous because those people have no credibility. So with that being said, I hope everybody enjoys the rest of their week. The Flyers play tonight. I believe they play the Hurricanes. Hopefully they can continue to get better. And yeah, so see you guys later and go Flyers.